patronage of the Faisal and Shabana Foundation. This is also a kickoff meeting with the aspiring students who will be trained to become future government officials, ambassadors, foreign services, etc. Who knows, one of you may probably be posted as the ambassador of UAE, ambassador of India to UAE in the future. We have with us Mr. Najib Kantapuram, MLA Perinthilmanna, who has initiated this project, which is first of its kind in the state, offering free residential coaching to students from the Malabar region. Ms. Huma Abedin, Chief of Staff for Hillary Clinton, Mrs. Shabana Faisal, Vice Chairperson of KEF Holdings and Faisal and Shabana Foundation, Mr. Faisal Kotikulon, Chairman of KEF Holdings and Faisal and Shabana Foundation, all are specially invited guests and KREA team members. We have a short video which we are going to play so that you all get to know more about KEF Holdings. Please, on the screen.
Began with metal scrap trading in 1995. Soon after, Emirates Technocasting was established to manufacture specialized valves for the oil and gas industry. By 2007, we became a self-contained integrated technology center. The community center was built to focus on the welfare of our employees. ETC was later ranked as one of the top 3 foundries in the world. Accelerating infrastructure development through automation and robotics, KEF Infra was one of the largest integrated off-site manufacturing facilities in the world. Fast-forwarded the construction of hospitals and schools to transform millions of lives.
Today, we are celebrating the success of a noble Indian, of a noble family, the success of open-mindedness, of speed, of imagination, of excellence in execution. Performance leads to recognition. Recognition leads to respect, and respect leads to power.
And India will see many great entrepreneurs. But what's important is when young people give back to society. When young people contribute to the society, that is what a great Indian is all about. People make money, but people must put back money into the society, and that to my mind is the greatest quality which this young couple has. So ladies and gentlemen, kindly give them a big hand.
KEF Holdings is guided by the Faisal and Shabana Foundation to make a difference. Interventions in education, healthcare, arts and culture, women and youth empowerment, and regenerative sustainable development have empowered communities to positively build sustainable futures. MUDRA, a quaternary healthcare facility bringing unparalleled clinical care and patient experience in India at global standards. KEF Healthcare has redefined healthcare delivery from evidence-based clinical care to cutting-edge technologies and modular designs with MUDRA Hospital. Welcome to a new way of thinking, to a new approach to well-being, happiness, and health, to a combination that can't be found anywhere else. One where mind, body, and soul work in harmony with place. Hospital and hotel, resort and spa, retreat and rehabilitation, experiences and treatments, ideas and possibilities, unique, meaningful, and memorable. Welcome to a new harmony between how you feel and where you are. And welcome to a new philosophy, clinical wellness. Welcome to Tula.
morning once again, everybody. You've seen the video of KEF Holdings. We'll just take you quickly through Faisal and Shabana Foundation and what we do at the foundation. As was shared in the video, whatever we do within KEF Holdings, all the energy, all the positivity we drive from the Faisal and Shabana Foundation, because Faisal and Shabana Foundation is the heart of whatever is done and KEF Holdings as such. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to this grand day, a kickoff meet where budding young, 100 young people are going to be the future of India, making this nation more great than we always have been. Thank you very much for coming. So, as we said, quickly, basically KEF Holdings is talking about social impact. We disrupt things, but then when we disrupt, it's about creating positive social impact. And as I shared, the Faisal and Shabana Foundation is at the heart of all. This is the KEF wheel, and you see the foundation at the heart of it. Quickly, this is already seen, so I just quickly run through. This is the ETC business that we had begun, the KEF Infra intervention, MUDRA, and the Tula Wellness, the video that you have just seen. Basically, the foundation began in 2007, more from giving back as welfare approach that we had, but then over a period of time we have moved to needs-based and specific developmental initiatives, and over a period of time 2.5 million people have been impacted what we have done through a foundation. Education is a major pillar of what the foundation does, and as you've seen in the video also, the school that we have supported rebuild has become a model for not just this place in Kerala but across the globe, and I'll tell you the domino effect towards the later part of it. We have an MIT supported R&D center. As I said, what we learned through businesses in infrastructure, health, what we have actually learned from our trial and error R&D systems that we have at our businesses. This is the Nadakav school. As I mentioned, this has been replicated in 966 schools across the state alone and many more beyond. There's a video towards the end, so I won't talk more about the foundation because of the video itself will share a specific. Also just to note that, we were in 2015 one of the top 6 globally, and we were ranked as the businesses in the community of the Prince's responsible businesses. So we had, one of the top 6 there. Prince Charles's entity. It's a collaborative effort where all stakeholders are considered, and a detailed gap analysis was done by IIM Calicut, and on the basis of which the proposal was developed, and the impact has been studied also on how we've reached where we aspired to reach. And this is where the school was. I think some of the students at the back and some of us at the front might be able to relate to government schools, run down, and not just Nadakav, others also. But that's been, changed into where children start feeling. I mean, the most important part of what we have done is not the infrastructure, is not the ambience that has been created. It's basically the respect and the self-worth among the students. And what they today think like, okay, fine, I'm a person who can really make a difference in the life of others. And that actually is the impact that Faisal and Shabana Foundation has done through the Nadakav model. Just showing you a few before-after clips. Also to share, this kitchen that we have, the industrial kitchen that we have there. During the COVID times, we had continuous community food being distributed from the kitchen for 90 days trot. Almost, 2,500 food packets would go at lunch and dinner time from this community kitchen. So whatever has been done through the foundation, not just impacts directly for the people who are there at that point of time, in this case students, but also is used as facilities for, larger good of the community. The international impact, the global connects that we bring in. And today we have Ms. Huma with us, who's going to be talking to us. That is the continuum of what we have been doing, and I'm happy that she's going to be interacting with the students of Nadakav school today in the afternoon also. This is what I mentioned, the school. See, Nadakav model, as we know, in Malayalam, if you remember, the last government had brought in as the Podu Vidyabhyasa Samrashana Yajnam. That was actually based on the Nadakav model. And today, we have got 966 schools across Kerala which are being remodeled on this method. And it's not just here. We at the foundation have, taken it to Africa also. We have a project in Uganda, impacting, supporting 3 schools there, along with an Australian non-profit. So that's first of our interventions there, and we plan to go into other countries in Africa also in 2023 and 24. Health is another major area, as I mentioned. So several areas that we look, and primarily the support that we provide is more from a research perspective in trying to understand how we can make every dollar that is given give back more to communities. So it's not just a charity component of supporting for maybe medical aid, which happens, but beyond that it actually creates several levels of research. And as we know, research is the backbone of change and community impact, social impact that we would want to really bring in. Another one very important intervention that we did in nutrition was basically providing midday meals, food day meals actually, for people coming from very humble backgrounds. Close to 180 million people have been, to date have eaten from these community kitchens, as we might say, where morning, afternoon and dinner can be had at almost like 40 cents, a day. The COVID times also we were covering, and we went into spaces where normally, of course, COVID was a time which was tough for everybody, but what we did was that we went to very hard to reach communities, which were like the nomads, the tribal communities where normal government systems would not be able to access to that, and the migrant population. So we were people who were traveling from location to location. Those were the communities that we reached. We did it in 5 states: Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Madhya Pradesh, and then of course Tamil Nadu, apart from what we supported in Kerala. Kerala, of course, we did it through IMA, but all the other places we basically worked through community networks that we already have. The smart ICUs that we had, as I mentioned earlier, all business ventures that we have a direct social impact intervention. So during COVID times, we work with the government hospitals. As we know, Dr. Ali is here from Metra, very closely associated with the intervention that we did in supporting people, specifically for ICU patients where critical care supervision is required. So we tied up with Cloud Physicians and an entity, and through them we worked to reach out to the government hospitals. There's another case of your autism school that we have in Mahi. Research, it's on Mr. Faisal's mother's name, and here it's the best research center that you can have in autism, south of India, and we have 120 children directly reaching out for the services, and more than 180 kids come on a daily basis from outpatient interventions. The very important aspect of what Faisal and Shabana Foundation does is that we look at theme-centered intervention like health, education, different community integrated intervention. So even if we start with health or education, we just don't look at academics alone. We look at the whole. So Krishnagiri, Enugol Panchayat similarly had got 8 villages which we took up, and over a period of 5 years, we converted that into a completely self-sustained on health, education, and specifically on water and sanitation, the very important component, because it was basically, unfortunate, but the places we come from, apart from Kerala, we have open defecation as a common practice. And we have now a whole panchayat which is open defecation free, completely done. And the way we do it is, the process of how the foundation works out is that we create a model and then advocate with the government to see that those models can be raised up, just like we did with Nadakav School. The basic thing is that we believe resources aren't what you call scarce. There is resources. It's basically leadership and will that is required, and that leadership and will and the proof of concept is what Faisal and Shabana Foundation brings out. So that once it is proven, people can, like we did in Nadakav School, what we have done with Enugol Panchayat, we have had Gates Foundation come and study the model, and they want now to replicate that in 3 different states of India. So that's the kind of replication, that impact that we are able to bring in. Different aspects there. The average income increased by 2.7x. 3,000 lives were impacted, and all areas of intervention we were able to look at, whether it is agriculture, WASH, women empowerment, education, or skill development. This was also a community where child marriage was rampant, alcoholism was unfortunately very there, domestic violence was bad. So we used all different women empowerment, all aspects of intervention to bring those changes where it matters most. Just a couple of because of shortage of time, I'm not going to all the details. Yeah, one important thing also just to kind of bring out here is that when the foundation intervenes, we always go for a very, very professional needs assessment done. And the gap analysis actually, so in this case we used one of the topmost participatory role appraisal entity called Praxis. They're basically associated with the University of Sussex, and the team kind of did the intervention for us. And we do a post impact annually. We do an impact monitoring and evaluation. Annual evaluations are done, but we also do an impact evaluation at the end of it. So we're very happy now. It's done by just like Nadakav School. IIM did the gap analysis. We had University of Strathclyde Glasgow do the impact analysis for whether we actually reached where we wanted to kind of we set out to reach. The art and culture is another major intervention that we do for both Mrs. Shabana and Mr. Faisal. Art is very close to their heart. And the impact, the impact that we would want to really bring about is trying to revive dying arts. Specifically handlooms and, handicrafts, as we know, is one area where, because of the, technology enhancements and mechanization is getting a little tough. Right now, we are working with a group of, 7 villages in Naba district in Punjab. It's called Fulkari art. Fulkari, stitching basically. So Fulkari is being supported. It's basically reviving. So we are getting an enterprise set up by 150, Fulkari skilled women there. These are photos from there. And finally, humanitarian assistance. So wherever, God forbid, but then we know that, these crises, man-made and natural disasters happen. So whenever they happen, Faisal and Shabana Foundation respond. Our aim is to do it within 24 hours, that we should be there to respond, first responders. At this point of time, we are able to do it in 48 hours. Our aim is to by 2025, we should be able to have a system where within 24 hours, we'll be able to. So be it Kashmir, be it our own Kerala floods, 2018, 19 and 20, we were there to kind of, support. And I'll show you another video of how we've built a whole house completely, within prefabricated within just 11 hours. We also supported the solar. So climate change and taking care of our environment is also very close to our heart. So we support in alternative sources. As I mentioned, see, any intervention that we do, we closely relate with the community that we are working in. So we have got Chilambra Extensions Initiative now, which is the whole of not just Chilambra, but the whole, 7 panchayats that we have, 6 panchayats that we have here. Now, taking Mr. Najib's constituency also, we'll have much more there. So with the Civil Service Academy that we are doing. So important things that we are doing here is that we have a government fisheries college, which is the needs assessment is being done at this point of time. IIM Calicut again is supporting us for that initiative. So a transformation there. We're looking at an integrated holistic development. So in the 6 panchayats, there are 7 villages. So that we'll do the Enagol model that we have created. We'll be taking them. And the focus here would be, at this point, we have not got the gap analysis. Once we get the gap analysis, we'll fine tune and find out. But then at this point, from what we have understood, is women empowerment, of course, natural and organic farming, skilling and market linkages. Also, this area, as we know, tourism is hugely possible. Specifically, Vallikund area is, as we know, specifically people from this area, Kadalundi and all, have a lot potential for tourism. So we'll be supporting that initiatives also. The key one that we have today is the Civil Service Academy. This is the structure that is coming up. It's almost done. We've got another 2 weeks to go before, August 1st, the kids are going to be there at this center. So it's all being made for all your, the whole lot of 100 kids who are today. So congratulations to all of you all. And we are at the Faisal and Shabana Foundation. We at KREA are very happy and proud to be part of this. Thank you very much. We'll be just seeing 2 videos now. One is, the first one is a quick one, they're short videos. One is on Rebuild Kerala, which is about how, technology has been used to provide quick support for people who are at need. And this is a house that we constructed in 11 hours. And the other one, the second one would be of Nadakav School. Thank you very much.
Today, 58% of children do not complete primary school and 90% do not attend college. Of the children that do attend school, 90% of them go to government or government-aided schools. One of the greatest injustices is the sustained neglect of 1.2 million government schools.
Joined VHSS for Girls Narakava for my +1 education, and I'm here VHSC first year student. I want to build another house which satisfy all of our needs. Here we are having only 2 rooms, and in one room 4 of us, my mother, father, me and my sisters are doing, and another room my grandmother.
I feel so proud to be a part of Student Police Cadet, and we serve the society through the traffic duties.
This school focuses on the all-round development activities. This year I am participating in the sub-district level youth festival, and also I am writing the grade 5 examination of Trinity College of London.
I love my school very much, and I wish that there were more schools like this.
I need to stand in my own 2 feet and not get married yet. It's because I do not want to depend on my parents even after growing up, and also on my husband even after getting married.
I want to be a IAS.
My ambition is to be a psychologist.
I want to become a police IPS officer.
My ambition is to be a teacher.
I feel privileged to teach here and talk about this institution. Earlier, it wasn't the condition of this school, and the students also, everything has changed. In the part of a government sector, it's beyond our dream. All the parents, I think, this locality and from faraway places, they are selecting this school.
PRISM is conceived as a very big transformational model for the schools. We know that a large number of Indian students study in government schools. If really India has to go ahead and make real mark in the global scenario, it's important that our school education has to be radically transformed. And the Nadakav school has shown that if you have the right intent and right people, we can actually make changes. And I don't think why that should not be replicated across the country.
This school gives you a purpose larger than yourself. And now is the moment that this girl and all the 300 million girls say in voices loud that we are the future of India and we will build the nation.
I invite Mr. Najib MLA to address the gathering, please.
Very good morning, all of you. I'm very proud and very happy to have this moment, because it was a very my dream in my life, because it was an effort of years. I think I was molding in my mind itself. Thank God and thank you all. First of all, these guests, I have to tell some words about first Mr. P.K. Ahmed Sahib. He is the mentor of my life also. From my childhood, he was like my father. My father died in my early age, and he was a mentor in my whole life. Coincidentally, I connected with his son later on. That's what happened. I'm so happy to introduce him. And how I introduce Mr. Faisal, with what word? I think it is better to tell he is the happiest man in the world. I think it is better way to introduce him. He is working for the happiness of the whole world. He is working for the taking this whole mission to give the people. As we see in this video, we can understand that what is his mission. And these prominent personalities, Anwar Ramin Sahib and Shreyans Kumar, he is the a great son of a legendary father, Mr. MP Virendra Kumar. He was the tower of the knowledge as far as Kerala is concerned. His speeches, his thoughts, his writings was very much inspires us till now. And this whole people, Anwar Amin Sahib, and Piyunin Sahib, Mr. Ali Sahib, and all of them are so much connected from my childhood itself. And these students is the gems of Kerala. I am very proud of you. Because from the 4,800 students, and we have a guest, I am just introducing the last, Huma Abdin. I am not forget her name, but I am so happy because these students is getting a wonderful experience that the senior civil servant of US is going to address you. It is so very much happy and it is a brilliant occasion. Now I remember US, the great leader, Martin Luther King. In 1960s, I think, there was a great gathering there in Washington, D.C. 2 lakh people gathered there. Martin Luther King came and made a tremendous speech. It was about his dream. He told, I have a dream. He dreamt a dream that all people coming together. The white students, one day the white students will catch the hands of the black student. That was his dream. Really? It was his dream. And now I have a dream that the poorest students of our villages coming and making wonders in the world and becoming the IAS officers of these tomorrows. That is my dream. Because of education, only the tool, we can make changes. From the day of the first, after I elected, I just go to these villages just for searching that students. We have to give them education. We can change the world only through education. If you try to give a gift to a student, it is not the mobile phone. It is not the good clothes. It is only education. We have to gift the student. It will be marvelous forever. So, these students, I am very happy to see you all. I never saw a single one of them because we have a policy that we will not enter, we will not, any side, we will not enter in this whole process of their selection. It was purely done by 11 IAS officers. I am proudly say you that. It is only your merit that gifted you this chance to come and gather here. So it is only your merit. We respect you all. We respect you all. Tomorrow a day will come and you will rule the country of our great nation. You know, first, it is our father of our nation, Gandhiji. Mahatma Ji have a dream also. That is, every people's representative, every ruler should see the last person of the society. That is what our mission, unto the last. Reach unto the last. We are trying to reach unto the last. So thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. MLA. I now call Mr. Faisal to address the gathering.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Very happy to stand here and address, especially in front of my parents. Huma Abedin, we became friends by coincidence when we went to Maldives 2 months ago. Such a wonderful human being, and not because she is the chief of staff of Hillary Clinton. I think everybody has positions in our lives, but what the most important thing, what I came across and recognized her as a human being. Thank you for coming. Najib MLA you really shocked me with your speech. Wonderful. I think he needs a big applause for that, because it came from bottom of his heart. And I never knew Najib till I think 4 or 5 months ago. He was trying desperately to get an appointment with me. Normally, I avoid going into the public because I do my job. But seeing his perseverance to meet me, I met him 4 months ago in this place. And I asked him, what is the agenda? So he said, I have this 10 projects called KREA. I wanted to empower the people, the students from the bottom of our pyramid. And I need your help. I need your advice. And I asked him one simple question. How does your day look like? So he told me, Faisal, I have not even a space for one suji gutan samyamilla. Even a nail to hammer, I don't have a time. I'm such busy political man. So I said, I'm not interested in helping you for any of the projects, because a person without having a proper time, you cannot execute any projects. So, but what surprised me after that was, he said, tell me, what should I do? So I said, unless and until we have self-discipline and a focus, we can't achieve anything in life. And I told him, if you can wake up 5 in the morning and sleep early every day for 21 days, because I don't know how many people have read Robin Sharma's book, 21-Day Rule, because any new habit to develop, you need 21 days. And I'm surprised, every day Najib used to send me a picture at 5 in the morning. It really, he's a man of a lot of surprises. He's so committed and focused. And I think this is what the leadership is all about. You need to have a clear focus, what we wanted to do in our life, and everything will happen by itself. And don't look at the success. What you look at it is, what you wanted to aim for, and you keep working, and it's up to the God whether to have it or not, and it'll happen, and that's been my career. I had these wonderful parents who raised all of us, and I always said to myself, I wanted to be like my father, because he worked so hard for all of us. So I think the few advice I wanted to give to this 100 students is, you should have a dream, and that dream should be very big. Don't stop with a small dream, and you go for it. Correct? For that, you need to develop discipline. Self-discipline is everything. You need to have a clear discipline in your life. Every day you do it, you will start loving it. I've been waking up 4:45 in the morning for the last 30 years. Wherever in the world I am, I do that. Even today morning, we're all out 6 in the morning. We ran, we do yoga together with Huma, my wife, everybody. It was so much of fun. You break that barrier. We're all sitting here with different dresses, correct? So these are the layers of what we are. That is not us. We are just acting in our daily lives just to impress somebody else, which we are not. We don't have to impress anybody. We have to impress ourselves. We need to start looking inwardly. And once you start looking inwardly, you will find happiness. And I think that's what I always tell people. You have to be happy yourself to give happiness for others. Unless and until we are happy, we cannot spread happiness. And that's why today we have a huge vacuum of leaders in the world. Everywhere. You will see leadership vacuum. And that is where what inspired me when Najib came for the Civil Service Academy. Because you are the future leaders of India who runs the country. And you have to be completely not partial with anything. We are all, end of the day, human beings. If you don't have a name when we are born, how will you differentiate? We as Hindu, Muslim, Christian? No. So we are actually living in a fool's paradise. So we should not have any discrimination, and that's the beauty of our great country. One of the best democracy and the best constitution written ever. And that is what we need to protect it. Now we need to respect everybody. We need to take care of everybody. We need to start giving. More you give, more you get. Money is not the benchmark. Should not be the benchmark. But unfortunately, that has become the benchmark now. And that is where, when I started my career, I never looked at making money. I said, what is the purpose I wanted to be in life? What I wanted to achieve in life? To be satisfied for myself first, then to satisfy others. And things will happen. And I've been very grateful to God. I've been blessed. And when me and my wife, created such a wonderful business, we sold the business to Tyco. We got a lot of wealth, but didn't change us. Still, we were waking up at 4:30. We always wake up together. We walk together. We have coffee together. Because the family is everything. What you get from the family is what you give to the society. If you don't have the time to spend with your wife and children, it's not worth the life what you are leading. So this is very important lessons, because I'm addressing 100 future leaders. So you all have to have these basics first. Unfortunately, our education system is completely skewed. None of the basics are taught in the schools anymore. What we're teaching is advanced sciences, advanced mathematics. But more than that is life itself. Me and Shabana was spending 1 week in an academy called Vedanta Academy near Lonavala. That's the only academy in the world started by Swami Parthasarathi, who teaches about life. School of life it is. And we were amazed. The amazing thing was, we were staying like in a hostel, no air conditioning. And every day we were serving people there. The more you serve the people, you find the meaningful of life. With this, I wanted to welcome all of you, and I'm so glad Huma's come. And she's going to address all of you. You are so lucky to have Huma, who's reached the highest level. At the age of 19, she got into the White House as an intern. And from there, she became the topmost civil servant in the world. And see how God connected us. We never met. And when I told about the project, he said, Faisal, I would like to come and address. First I thought, oh my God, is she serious? She said, no, I want to come. And this is the power of energy, we call it. And we are all connected with the force of energy. With this, I have not dragged too much. I want to thank all of you. And I think after the Huma's presentation, before we close it, I'll talk about this project, how this is going to make Northern Kerala or Kerala in the world map. And that's the next mission. With this, thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you, Mr. Faisal. We have with us Ms. Huma Abedin, who currently serves as Hillary Clinton's Chief of Staff. Huma has spent her entire career in public service and national politics, beginning her career as an intern in First Lady Hillary Clinton's office in 1996. She is the New York Times best-selling author of Both and A Life in Many Worlds. Over to you, Huma.
Good morning, everybody, or namaste, assalamu alaikum. So everywhere I have gone in the last 8 months, traveling and talking about my book, I've gone for one reason. It's, I'm speaking to university students, or I'm going to a hospital, or I'm, going to a political event. This is the first time that I think there was a higher power that intervened to bring me to this space and to be in community with all of you today. And I'm feeling a lot of emotions, so I want to share that with you at the beginning. First, I want to thank my hosts, Shabana and Faisal. He is 100% right. We met by chance in the Maldives. We were working. I know every time you say to somebody you're going to the Maldives, everyone thinks it's a vacation, but I was there to talk about my book, and we made this connection. And I did say I wanted to come and talk primarily to the students, but I'm also so honored that Faisal's parents are here as well, because my story is so connected to this place. And I will tell you why, because I'm not going to assume, especially the young people, know who I am. I open my memoir with a story of my grandmother when she was 8 years old and living in Hyderabad over 100 years ago. She decided one day that she wanted to go to school. All of her brothers were going to school and her cousins were going to school, and she was not allowed to go to school. Her family lived in Parda. And so whatever education she got was in the home. And she said no. She demanded to be sent to school. And so finally, her mother had agreed right away, and she finally cut a deal with her father that she would be allowed to be educated at the one girls' school in town, but with one condition, that she not be allowed to leave from the front of the house. She had to go from the back of the house in an ox cart, in a covered ox cart, so that people wouldn't see a girl leaving the house every day. And she did. She went to school. She was the first person, it's my great-grandmother actually, completed her education, raised her daughter who went to university, and then raised 5 daughters, including my mother, all of whom their lowest education is having a PhD. And I often think when I imagine my life, where I would be or what I would have accomplished if it hadn't been for that 8-year-old girl who decided she wanted to be educated, who came from a place not far away from here. And so my father and mother both come from that, maybe that generation, Indian generation, where education really was a religion in a way. They were both Fulbright scholars. My father got on a ship and went to the United States, the University of Pennsylvania, to get his PhD. My mother flew. She likes to make the difference. She flew and my dad took a ship, whatever. And they met at the University of Pennsylvania, full scholarships. And they fell in love, got married, and they moved to Kalamazoo, Michigan. And that's where I was born. And when I was 2, my father was diagnosed with renal failure. And the doctor in Michigan told him, you have 5 to 10 years. This was 1977, so organ transplants in the United States were not a common thing. And so he said, you have 5 to 10 years, you should get your affairs in order. And one of the first lines I wrote in my book when I sat to write this book was, my father was told he was dying. And so he went out and he lived. And a few months later, we moved to Saudi Arabia. Both my parents were professors. I went to an international school. I grew up in Saudi Arabia. I went to an international school. I had the best education, and I really credit that. And by the way, the best teachers in our school, I was saying to Shabana, were all from Kerala. Biology, chemistry, you wanted math, you wanted to be in their class. And my parents raised me to believe that I could be anything I wanted to be, even on days I wasn't sure I could, even on days I didn't even know what I wanted to do. And so I went to the United States for university, to George Washington University. And when I was 19, I did apply for an internship in the White House. And Hillary Clinton was First Lady, Bill Clinton was president at the time. And back then, in the 1990s, many of you are not old enough to remember, but those of us who are older will remember. Back then, America was arguably the sole superpower in the world. We were actively championing women's rights as human rights around the world through Hillary Clinton and, peace talks in the Middle East and in Ireland, Northern Ireland. It was a very exciting time. And I would argue, actually, in some ways, more people voted for her than voted for her opponent. But I had the most phenomenal professional experience, and in part, it's because I was able to serve my country. And so for those of you who think you one day might become civil servants, and I know it's not an easy path, I would encourage you to do so, because for most of my life, I was always the youngest in the room. I was also the only brown person in the room. I worked in a big white building, and nobody looked like me. Nobody was fasting when I was fasting. Nobody was praying when I was praying. And nobody really knew anything about the Middle East, another connection that we have, this sort of the Gulf, that deep connection to the Gulf. And so to be different then was something I carried with great pride. We talk about this very often, and that's why just looking at the structure of the school makes me very emotional, because you're right. Talent is universal, but opportunity is not. And what the leadership, all of whom spoke, most of whom spoke earlier this morning before me, you guys are like Hillary. You have been successful, and you could retire and just go off and spend your life at spas and do nothing, really. I say that to my boss all the time, but you don't. You choose to give back, which in a way is harder, but it's service that means something here. And that's one of the reasons I'm here too, is that whatever, now that I've written the book, I've traveled, I've been to over 120 countries, traveled everywhere. I can't think of a person I want to meet that I haven't met. And I have had such a rewarding, fulfilling life. My father always told me, and making the connection to Tula, that a good life is a balanced life. But I didn't follow that advice. I walked into the White House in 1996, and all I did was work. I worked and I worked and I worked and I worked, and I did nothing else. And so if I could go back, and it's the one thing I would say to all the young people, do find balance. Family is so important. And so as I travel the world and people have read my book and respond to some story, making a connection, whether it's about family, whether it's the importance of having mentors, whether it's, mentor of the same gender or another, just somebody who you can go and talk to, who might actually see something you don't see in yourself. It's really helpful to have that person in your life. And I've had that in Hillary. I've had it in Anna Wintour, and I'm lucky for both of those relationships. And I obviously, first and foremost, have it from my parents. My father did get a kidney transplant. He did. The doctor was right. His kidney failed exactly 10 years, almost to the day. He was diagnosed, and he managed to get a transplant, and he had 7 additional years with us. And that was a gift. And the way we woke up every single day, and we also had to do sun salutations, by the way, every morning. And my father was a big follower of homeopathic and alternative medicine. So every morning we'd wake up and we all had to have 5 almonds and a teaspoon of honey and homeopathic pills every day, because it was all about how to live a healthier, more natural, organic lifestyle back in the 80s when people weren't doing that. And so all of those reasons are why, to me, it means so much to be here, to be part of what is happening here, both in terms of education, in terms of your, potential public service, because you are inheriting the world. The leadership in this country India is powerful, large democracy. You're not going anywhere. If anything, you're here to show other parts of the world what leadership can be, and that's why it's ever more important, because you guys are the future leaders. And so with that, I just want to thank you for listening to me. I'd love actually to hear from people and take some questions. But the final thing I'll say, because I never got on stage before 8 months ago. I was terrified of public speaking. Hate it. Very private. I like being back or in the hallway. But it's the one piece of advice I give everybody now, which is consider doing the thing that scares you the most, because it's probably worth it. And I did the thing that scares me the most. I wrote my story, and now I make speeches about it. And I find that I'm pretty good at it, and I really enjoy it. And I never knew I could until I tried. So always try. And thank you.
We have an open Q&A session with Huma, so please feel free to ask your questions to her.
Anybody? Yes. This doesn't look like a shy crowd.
Ma'am, I am Krishna Priya. So happy to meet you. My question is there any difference between Indian and American political scenario? And could you please share your views on current Indian democracy and your suggestions too?
You know, my book is called Both and. And people always ask me, why is your book called Both and? And it is because it is how I was raised, which is you should never be scared. And I learned this from my parents, particularly my father. And my father, as I said, was an academic, and he often would go into conversations and have pretty provocative conversations with people who didn't agree with him or people who didn't believe in the same values or faith system as him. And so his friends would say to him, his name was Zane, and they would say, Zane, why do you always go have these conversations where even angels fear to tread? And my father, who had a very, strong sense of belief in his values, said, I will never understand the other unless I try to be in that space and place with them. And so I'm not, when I travel around the country, I'm a Democrat, and I speak with Republicans, people from the other political party. I never believe that I'm going to walk out of the room and they're going to agree with everything that I say. But at least if they're willing to listen and I'm willing to listen to them, maybe we can compromise. And that is how I was raised. I was raised in what I call the Clinton School of Politics, which is how do we solve a problem? If, two sides can't agree on everything, how do you solve a problem? How do you get to a place where there's compromise? And to answer your question, we don't really live in a both-and world anymore. We live increasingly in an either-or world, certainly in my country, and in many countries around the world, where it is very extreme views that are constantly coming opposite each other. And whether we can be successful in moving forward a democracy, I don't know. I mean, it's been a very unsettling time in my country. The last administration, I know certainly, people think it did some good things, but it was not, in my opinion, the best administration for our country. And the ramifications, in my opinion, of Hillary losing has been manifold. I do think she was and is the most qualified American who ever ran for president, man or woman. And she would have done an amazing job. But until we find our way back to that place where we're not yelling and screaming at each other and refusing to listen, we have some real problems. And that is why I come back to, I tell this story. I don't know if many of you are familiar with a young woman who's now a very senior senator. Her name is Kirsten Gillibrand. She serves in the United States Senate. We have 100 senators serving in the Senate. And she tells the story of being a young lawyer in New York. She was a very successful and private practice lawyer. And she went to an event in New York, and she's standing in the back of the room, and she sees Hillary Clinton up there speaking. And Hillary basically said to the room, if there's something that you are unhappy about, that your government's doing, or the city, or the trash isn't getting picked up, whatever it is, you can either complain or you can do something about it. But I would encourage you to do something about it. And this young woman said, I have this cushy job, I'm this successful lawyer, but I have lots of problems with what my local government is doing, and decided to run for Congress. And now she has Hillary's seat. She is the United States Senator representing New York. And so a lot of the conversation we have, at least I have in my country, is if you're going to sit and complain, maybe think about doing something. And you're in the position to do it. And with the opportunities being given to you, this is officially now on you guys, because you're inheriting this world. We're leaving it to you, and I don't know if we're leaving it to you in a better place than we found it, but by God, I'm gonna try to do whatever I can to help see that happen.
Good morning, ma'am. Myself, Aisha Sana. So I was just wondering, I was just curious hearing all your success story, whether you think the
area of politics is a male-dominant one. What's your opinion? And one more, it's not over. Even if it is or it is not, is there any particular challenge that you have faced that you would like to share with us?
Any political, sorry?
Any challenges, particular challenges?
Oh, political challenges. Yeah. Well, we lost. Those were definitely challenges. That's the thing about elections, you win or lose. Well, there's a whole chapter in my book about sexism in politics and misogyny in politics. And in fact, when Hillary was running for president, we had research that showed that it's easier for women to run for bodies that are collaborative. So for assembly or for city council, where you're amongst your peers. But it was much harder for women to succeed in politics when it's an executive position. So to be mayor, to be governor, to be president. And in part, it's because most men, and frankly many women, it's hard for us to see women as leaders. We don't, whether it's conscious or subconscious, we just don't see them as leaders, and we had a really hard time during the campaign. I have so many funny stories in my book, and one of the stories I share is when Hillary was running in 2016, people would call us all the time and say, oh my God, why does she always wear black? She needs to wear color. That's more appealing. Like, okay, put her in color. And somebody would call and say, why doesn't she wear long dresses? She needs to wear more long dresses. I don't like her in short jackets. I mean, everyone had a different opinion, right? And it was, why is her voice so, loud? I feel like she's yelling at me every time she gives a speech. And in part, at least for Hillary, she was the first, so again, if we go back to how I started, which is if everything in life happens for a reason, and she did lose, what's the silver lining? It is that we had not seen what it was like for a woman to break all these barriers, and she'd been doing it for so long. We just assumed all of these things. I mean, look at Kamala Harris, our vice president, is dealing with all kinds of very similar sorts of criticism, that she's not well-versed on a certain topic, and dismissing her very worthy credentials. So it's hard, but you could also argue it's harder for women in business. It's harder for women generally in leadership positions, and that's why the only way forward, in my opinion, is the next generation. I have a 10-year-old son, and I am raising my son to not just respect women, but not to fear their power. And I think that's a big part of the lesson going forward. It's on those of us who are parents.
Hi, ma'am. Actually, I was very shocked and surprised to see an eminent person like you. Also, I heard that you are like a US American. Okay, my question is the developed is hunger? We know the hunger issue is all around the world. So, what is your opinion? Is it the moral responsibility of a developed country to eradicate hunger issues around the world?
It's one of the things I feel that I've learned actually from Faisal and Shabana, which is they look at the core issue and then figure out how do you solve that problem? How do you build around it? So it's not it's overwhelming. It's finding a targeted place where you can have impact. Because, I think you make a very important point, and you say this all the time, that the resources are there. It's figuring out how to use them. I mean, how many times do we hear about a new billionaire here and a new billionaire there? There are resources. People have resources. It's targeting those resources. Yeah, the fact that we have hunger in America is shocking, and we do. It's not just a problem in the developing world. This is a global problem, and I know there are many foundations and organizations that are working towards eradicating it. But there's no kind of global, what would be amazing if there was like a global hunger ambassador. But it's not a problem for a specific part of the world or country. It's a worldwide problem and one that is shocking to me.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Gada Abdul Kabir. Ma'am, you being born to South Asian parents and being a prominent figure in the West, I consider it my question being most apt to you because I think I'll get a more liberal answer. My question is, every time after recession, we experience a power shift, and after this particular recession, and we have seen Bolsonaro and Italian PM have handed in their resignations, both NATO members. Can we expect a similar power change after this recession, and which country can we expect it to take over or come to the forefront, or a grouping as in terms, if yes, ma'am?
I think that COVID has certainly, and the impact of the virus in the last 2 years has affected us globally in a way that I don't think anyone necessarily anticipated. Although it's funny, when we were in the Maldives, there was an Oxford historian, Peter Frankopan, who actually, it was a little eerie, the last festival he was at in 2019, he had said, we are due for a pandemic, and 6 months later, we had COVID. And look, we're still, in America, we're still dealing with the aftermath and still living, frankly, with COVID and that impact, and then the war in Ukraine and the impact the global impact that has had. I mean, everything from we already had issues related to supply chain delays and people not being able to engage in the world and not knowing the anxiety, the mental health challenges. I mean, every sector of society was affected in some way. I would still argue, because you specifically asked about administration change. In my country, we have an election coming up in November. It's the midterm elections. Normally, historically in our country, that is a bad election year for any sitting president. So, yes, my party, the Democrats who are in power now, Joe Biden, we're worried about how we're going to do in November. So when I wander around America just talking to regular people, even though this administration has done so much for them, the tax relief, the infrastructure bill at the beginning, uniting the Western world in support of Ukraine, Joe Biden has done some amazing things. But at the end of the day, as somebody who's been in politics for a really long time, when you go in to actually vote, I don't think you sit there and say, okay, this guy is going to do this and this woman's going to do this. No, you vote based on how you feel. So if you're going in and saying, all I know is this, I had a job, I don't have one anymore. I used to go to the grocery store and my groceries cost me $40 and now it costs me $80. And I can barely afford gas. Yeah, that's something to worry about. And in the end, it's all about each individual person. And so collectively as a society, how our community is going to react, I don't know. But I do think that the United States, I'm obviously supporting this administration. I think they're going to we will play a leadership role on the world stage for a long time to come. And it's a very uncertain time in many places, as you said.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you for coming here. We are very glad to have you here.
Thank you.
My friend Junior here, we just watched your talk with Mr. Trevor Noah just now.
Oh, great. Yeah. That was a good one.
So you were mentioning how challenging it was for you as an Asian descendant and also a Muslim woman.
Yep.
So I was wondering, could you recollect any moment or incident that made you think, oh, this is all worth it, or I have made this place a better space for women or minority in general in political or executive or bureaucratic spheres?
I think it is all the experiences I had in politics being the different person. has been worth it. And it is one of the reasons why when I'm in America, I always tell young people of color, minorities, to run for office. One of the advantages I had that a lot of, or not a lot of, all college university students I speak to in America now don't have, I came to America in a pre-9/11 world for university. So I came in 1993. And back then, there was a curiosity, about the Middle East, about being Indian, about my faith. So what is this? What is this thing that you do where you don't eat? Can you explain that to us? It was seen. Now, were there stereotypes? Absolutely. I remember like Aladdin had come out the year before, the Disney movie. And so I'd go places and people would, not realizing they were being offensive, and say, well, are you Princess Jasmine? Like, do you have a flying carpet back in Saudi Arabia? I did get those things, but it didn't bother me. I was actually quite proud to share how different I was, and we'd come, and remember, the Clintons loved India. They love India, so we came to India a lot when they were in the White House and post White House. What changed since then? Obviously, post 9/11, it got harder, but in 2012, there were some extreme right-wing Republican members of Congress who basically made up stories about my family. Because what they needed was to create the other, like somebody, who is she? What is this mysterious, background, this brown woman who's in the highest levels of government? And I was accused, because and hopefully some of you will read my book, I was basically accused of being a traitor to my country, that I was not loyal to America, that because I was Indian and Pakistani and Saudi connection and Muslim and all of these things, that I was a traitor. And it was terrible. I had death threats, and it was a very, very difficult time. And I was also, I think people here would understand, it was also horrible for my family. I come from a part of the world where your name and reputation mean a lot. They mean everything to a lot of people. So that was hard, and I had two options. I could stay in my house and just cry, or I could be out in the world and actually show them who we are as a community of people. And that's what I did. And it's one of the reasons I wrote the book, and I think it's one of the reasons the book has broken through. And normally book tours in America, you are on the road for 6 weeks. This is 8 months for me now, because there is a curiosity about trying to understand, my background, the part of the world that I'm from, and the only way to disarm people's minds about the other is to not make us the other. I don't know if this is relevant here, but I tell this to my American friends all the time. When you watch a show on Netflix or Disney or anything, and you see a family going into a church, a Caucasian family going into church, you say, oh, this is so wonderful. They're, such a faith-loving, faithful family. You see you're anywhere in the Middle East, or you see a family going into a mosque, and the immediate thing in your head, consciously or subconsciously, is something's about to get blown up. And that says something about our consciousness and our subconsciousness, and how we work to change that is by just making things normal. So that's what I'm trying to do with my book. Thanks for watching, Trevor Noah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Huma.
Should we take one more last question? Or no men have chosen to ask questions,
We'll take one more last question.
Yeah, let's take this gentleman right there.
Right there.
Oh, no, he asked a question. Sorry.
Ma'am, myself Mikdam. It's just of curiosity.
Yeah.
You have been working in the White House in the 90s.
Yes.
So I think you might be able to answer this question. So
I hope so.
Yeah. So we can see that United States being the spokesperson of human rights and intervening in Middle Eastern regions usually. So since you have been there in the White House in the 90s, which has been a lot more problems created, the crisis happened in the Middle East region. What do you have to say about that?
I know very well, anybody who's from India has realized, but yes. And I was there in the Senate the day that Hillary Clinton had to make the vote to support George W. Bush, who wanted to be given power to go in to Iraq and Afghanistan and start two wars that I believe were a mistake. And here we are. You know, I have to, you know, when I go to America, most people know my story, but when I'm here, I'm assuming most people don't. And when Hillary was in the Senate, we visited Afghanistan a lot. We made a lot of connections, relationships there. So when the U.S. was pulling out last August, I would literally wake up in the morning in America, in New York, and I would have messages on WhatsApp from our Afghan friends and Afghan women leaders who we knew, and they would say, "Are you really going to leave my children?" with pictures of their children, "Are you going to leave my children here to die?" Those are not hard messages or easy messages to process. Those are really hard. But again, all of this comes back to you, because these decisions are made by our leaders, and they have global historic consequences. And certainly the war, look, and you know, I know we have to wrap up. I was living in Saudi Arabia during Operation Desert Storm. I had a very different perspective. Yeah, I went to school, and every day we had the sirens because, you know, Saddam, for those of you who don't remember, Saddam Hussein had invaded Kuwait. And the United States came in and united, you know, with King Fahd at the time, and there was a multilateral effort to repulse Saddam, which did happen. And that was, again, for somebody living in Saudi Arabia, this is okay, great. Again, it's all perspective and it's leadership, and some of these decisions can be catastrophic, and some decisions are amazing, and it all comes down to who we elect. And that's why I believe the Democrats generally make better decisions than Republicans, but that's an opinion.
Thank you so much,
Thanks for that question. That's a great last question.
For addressing. Was that the last question?
Well, oh no, are we doing more?
I think that was the last question.
Okay.
So, I mean, we should have factored in the time, considering that we are addressing aspiring civil servants, and that this should have been the largest part of the program. But due to paucity of the time, we would like to close it now. And maybe we will have the session, and we'll request Huma if we can send your questions to her, and then she can answer them electronically later. So maybe you can write to us, tell us your questions, and then we'll deal with them. So thank you so much, Huma.
Thank you.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Huma Abedin, MLA Najib, Mr. Faisal, Ms. Shabana, Mr. Faisal's parents, Mr. Rafiq, Mr. Runeen, everyone who's been contributing towards making this vision successful. And I would just say that what better way to contribute to the community than letting the young minds find a path to make an impact to the society. And that's what this vision is all about. Thank you very much. And I would like to invite all of you for a group picture, and then post that we can all proceed for lunch. We have two options. One, we can have it here or just outside the building. Here is better. So I would like to invite all of you for a group photograph. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming here and making this event a great success.